This is going to be a small tutorial to try and get you started with Photoshop and with the photo collages to kind of get you going, because I realize now that you might have a whole lot of techniques and options to put together, but actually getting started can be a lot more difficult. So I'm going to go through the process that I would use with doing this sort of work and just try and break it down a little bit so that you can try these things to get going. So I'm going to jump into Photoshop. First thing I'm going to show you is how to make your own brushes. It's a pretty simple process. These ones are actually have already been made into brushes. So just some felt pen work. It's felt pen as well. We've got a few ink brushes, graphite, and then this is a pen nib for doing copper plate. So those are actually already in the brushes. If I click on the brush and have a look, there we are there. Copper plate, these ones called 80. Ink brush, graphite, so they're all in there at the moment. So I'll close that one. And these are the two that we're going to make new brushes from. Actually, I'll just change this to a regular brush in the meantime. So I'll start off by going Command L, just making everything a lot more black and white. I'll try and keep the tone in it a wee bit. I'll make sure it's white around the edge by, in this case, going to the dodge tool, highlights, make the brush a bit bigger, and just kind of sweep through, although that's on 100, so I'll lower it down a bit. And just, you can see down here, clean away that grey. And I'm going to do this one down here first. So I'm going to grab this, make a selection around it, and then I simply go Edit, Define Brush, give it a name. I'm going to call it just Conte 1. That one's done. And before I do the next one, I'm just going to go, I'll deselect, Command L. I'm going to do this one in a brush, but I'm going to see if I can really push it down a bit, see how far we can go with this, making it a different kind of graphic brush. Once I've got it how I want it, define it with a selection, and then again edit, define brush preset, give it a name, Command D just to get rid of that selection, and I'll go Command A, Command D, or sorry, Command Delete, which is fill with the background color, which is white, and we'll just have a look at how it paints. So I can still use the left square and right square brackets, change it to black so we can see. And what you'll see is if I paint with this, see it has this kind of oddly regular way of doing the line work, which doesn't really look very good. So if I click on this folder with the brush presets, I can come in here now and I can say, okay, shape dynamics, and if you watch it down here, you'll see it change. Give it a bit of jitter. I can change the angle so you can see it's kind of twisting and turning as it paints that line. Scattering is quite a good one. I'll give you an example. If I push it right up high, close that in a drawer. See, it's actually even painting at the top of the page. Really goes quite wild. So if I go to the scattering, I just bump that a wee bit. It's got a bit of movement, but not quite so wild. You can see now that you're getting something that does start to respond or paint a little wee bit more like a brush or or the contact itself, not this kind of computer orientated pattern. So I'm just going to go Command Delete again to make it white. Let's see how the other brush came out. Take one, close that. Oh, okay, yep. Change those options again for it. Bit of jitter, scattering, bump it up a bit. Play with the count a little. Actually, you can see with that one that, whoops, Command Delete to fill it with white. With that one, I'm going to put a bit of angle jitter, bit of rotation in there. I don't quite like the way it was coming out. Make it a bit smaller. Let's have a look. That's better, much better. And there we go. We've got new brushes. So we'll keep them, and I'll play around with the image. I'll just go through and work the way that I would start. So I've clear cut this one, pretty straightforward clear cutting. If I go open, you'll actually see, if you have a look at the images here, I've gone and clear cut a whole number of objects. Some of them are just symbols and a bit of writing and all sorts of bits that I can play with. So I'm going to start with this one, I think, building. I'm just going to, this is probably the best image I've got where I can kind of merge two things together. So I'm going to grab that layer and mask, just get rid of that, I don't need it now. And with this, I mean, obviously with the shape of it, the best option with this is to scale it, rotate it, and try and attach it onto Henry somehow. You can see that's kind of the most obvious place to put it. It aligns itself nicely with the image of Henry, and so we'll try and merge them together. So return, got those two images. So the first thing I want to do is I want to try and blend them, make it a bit more of a cohesive image. I'll click on the mask beside the building, and oh, okay, it's still one of the funny brushes. So it's on about 80. It's got a little bit of softness, but it's not too bad. The foreground color is black, so I'm just going to wipe out this funny little end piece that was on the building. Try and line it up with Henry's neck a wee bit. Now I'm going to mess around with the mask of Henry, so the first thing I'll do is I'll go into the channels, and I need to click on his mask, go into the channels, and I'm just going to duplicate it, drag it onto the new channel icon. And it's just so I know if I mess around with Henry's mask, there'll still be a duplicate there that I can use. Because the first thing I want to do is go and knock out his shoulder with, whoops, click on the mask with black, which is going to get rid of it. I'm doing it quite tight there so that it doesn't ease in too far behind here. And now I want to go and kind of soften this building. So I click on the mask, make it as soft as I can, and I'm going to take the opacity right down so that I'm just slowly, probably even go down a bit more, slowly eating into this image. Make the brush a bit smaller, bring it in by as, maybe make it a wee bit stronger. Just clicking and trying to drag it in a bit. trying to get rid of some of these heavier lines so that it blends in a bit better. I can't go too far in because I'll see, there we go, there's the edge of Henry's body, Command Z. So I've got to be a lot more subtler down here, and what I'll do is I'll follow, you can see these ripples from the clothing, so I'll kind of follow those clothing ripples a little, and I'll just kind of leave it there for a minute. Maybe do a bit more around the hands here, just to get rid of that harsh line. Now we've kind of joined it up, but it doesn't really work because obviously the building is so different to Henry. So what we'll do is we'll make a new layer. I'm going to go eye for the eyedropper tool and click on his shirt so I can get the same color. Paintbrush tool, I'm just going to make sure the opacity is right up. It's a reasonably hard brush, and I'm just going to enlarge the brush and paint over that building essentially. Now I can hold down the Option key between the layers and clip it. So it just makes it a solid yellow that's more or less the same color as Henry's shirt. Now I want to see a bit of the building, so I could play around with the opacity here, but I don't think it'll work because it's just going to show that transparency right through. So I'm going to duplicate that building and put it above the yellow. Obviously we lost our mark there, so it's clipped. This one's right over the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one. So I'll try different options here: darken, multiply. The screens and the license are going to probably be the best. Oh, actually, I like the I quite like the overlay. And it's quite good too. The difference in the subtract. Tricky. I'm going to go for subtract. It's pretty heavy-handed at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll just try and make it a wee bit more subtle by playing around with the opacity of it. And then what I will do is I'm going to come down to the actually, if I do it on this mask here, it's only going to affect this top image, which should be perfect. So I'm going to get that, make it small, and I'm going to mask out. I'm using black, so I'm getting rid of that image. So it's going to be a combination of just this yellow over the image and then this kind of overlay. Now what I can do here is if I click and hold down, and then I hold the shift key down and then I let go, and I click again, Photoshop will draw a straight line with the paintbrush tool. If I do it here, click, and while I'm holding it down, hold the shift key, let go of the mouse, and then come down here, click, and it joins those 2 points together. Here I'll do it again, click and hold down, push the shift key down, let go of the mouse. There we go. Pretty good for doing buildings with their straight edges. Just right square bracket is just making that brush a bit bigger so I can wipe this out a bit more easily. I could try and soften that, but I don't think I will at the moment. Maybe I'll come back up here. What happens if I mask this a little bit more? Oh, probably need a softer brush again. And I'm going to do it a bit more subtly than 100%. Oh yeah, that's nice, bringing the shoulder in a little bit more, those coming out, because with this crisscrossing of the images, when they start to become more entangled, the emphasis comes off the, let's bring the white, see if I can paint that building back in a wee bit. So, the more we get the images becoming entangled, the more they become an illustration or an image. You'll see it with B-grade movies. You watch a movie, and if the effects are cheap, you can spot it really quickly, and it takes the mystery or the aura out of that movie. Now, it's the classification, I suppose, of B-grade. You can kind of tell the effects and see what's going on. So we're always trying to smudge that a little bit. Okay, so now that I've got that, let's try and add a little bit more detail in. So I'm going to make a new layer. Going to make a thin selection, fill it with pink. So I'll go Option Delete, fill with the foreground color. Command D gets rid of that selection. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Command T, rotate it, move it over here. So we might make it a little bit longer, and then arrow key, get rid of that. And if I blow this up a wee bit, I can come here and go Command, Option, hold them down, and then I can drag this out a bit, do the same thing again, Command, Option, drag. If I don't get it quite right, I can move it with the arrow keys, which I'll do now. Yeah, and what I'm going to do, rather than doing it one by one, if I click on this and I go Command E, it merges it with the layer underneath. Command E again, merges with this, Command E. All of those lines are now on the one layer. So now if I go Command Option and I drag, it duplicates that layer. And I can do the same thing again, Command E, joins with the one underneath, and then Command Option, drag, Command Option, drag again. Oh, you have to use the arrow keys there. And again, Command E with this layer, joins with the one underneath, Command E again. They're all joined together. So I'm going to do, actually I won't, yeah, okay, I'll do one more to cover up that bottom of the t-shirt. Command Option, drag, use my arrow keys, there. Command E. It's all one thing again. Now remember, we've still got that original mask, so if I Command Option, drag it up, I've just copied that mask, duplicated it, and put it around this area here, around the lines. So now, if I want to go to the mask of Henry, let's come in here and say, okay, what we're going to do now is on his mask, go to black, which blocks. Oh, again, I've got to make sure it's 100. And make it a bit harder. So we can paint right behind that line. So I'm clicking, Shift, and I'm painting right up to where we join the building. Oh shit, sorry. Let's see, easy with a mouse sometimes. Now let's have a look at that Command 0 in the window. So we're starting to play with it. It's still a little bit flat. So let's see if we can complicate these things up a wee bit. So if I come in here, I'm going to paint the arms in, but just the arms. So get a paintbrush. This time it's white because I want to show it. Make it a bit smaller. Yeah, okay, 84, 90, that's good. So it's a pretty hard brush. And I'm going to paint them in a little bit. If I go too far, it's fine, just change it to X. And I can paint those areas out again. It's a bit smaller here, so I'll make the brush smaller. There we go. And same down here. Let's paint these arms in. X, so white. It's going to let that image show. Just paint it in because then I can go X. And I can paint it out where I can, when I see where I've gone too far. Because I just want the arms. So this is, using the masks especially, all of this becomes non-destructive. So you can always paint things in and paint things out. So I'm going to, let's say, go with this. I'll do it more with the shadow of the arm begins. So I'm painting out this bottom arm and just keeping the top arm a bit. Alright, we can see where the t-shirt's coming in, so X, knock that out. So we start to get a nice combination. Can we layer it up a bit more? One of the ways we do this is we go into the mask for the pink lines and paint them out. Oops, Command Z. I'm a wee bit much. Great, make it a bit smaller there. Let's have a look. Alright, so we're starting to entangle those lines a wee bit. I think it's a wee bit much coming in all the way here, like probably the lines are a wee bit too thin. So some of them we can thicken up, remember. So if I get the extra mask that we had for Henry, so I'll go channels, and I hit command, hit that mask, go back to the layers. That's going to give me the selection. I can now come into the pink and say, okay, I get that pink color, go to brush, make that brush a bit thicker, and maybe some of these lines. So click, hold down the shift key, let go of the mouse. Do the same here. Click, hold it down, shift key. Click, shift key. Whoops. I can't quite see where it was now. Oops. Jumped over the wrong line. So I can, as long as I hold the shift key down, I can keep clicking it along. Click, hold down, shift key, then I let go. Click, click. And it's just going to keep going along, doing that straight line. Then I won't get so lost. And maybe these ones here, I'll just mask them out. So go to the mask now, Command D, don't need that selection. Black's my foreground color, so it's going to mask it, block it, shift, cool. I might want to paint back in a little bit of Henry, his arm. Maybe I'll just X, I'll block this out, I'll just keep it to that level there, so there's still a gap between the two. Knock out the t-shirt. So like that. Alright, a little bit harsh around here. So now I can use one of those brushes. I can click on the mask beside the pink lines. Go and get one of the specialist brushes that we made. Alright, see how this one comes out. Make it a bit smaller. I'm on the mask, and you can see the way that it's eating into that pink line. Make it a bit smaller. Maybe I need to come in here with a regular brush, paint some of these bits out, still showing a bit there, so let's have a look. If I hold down the Option key and click on the mask, it will show me just the mask. Break, normal. So I can actually come in here and start to edit things as well. Click back on the layer, and it comes back out to the front. So we're starting to form an image that's becoming quite interesting. We've got a whole lot of other things that we can start to add in image wise. Let's go file. Oh, sorry, not new. What did open? File open. Let's see anything. Goblin. Alright, let's try this one. Command T. I can scale it right down. We can have some of the lines, and this is where it gets a bit interesting as well. You have a mask, but if I hold down Command and hit the pink lines, that gives me a selection for the pink lines. So now if I click on the mask for Henry and I use black for blocking it out, get a smaller brush, I can let some of these lines, so this is masking Henry, using that line selection, and so it lets some of those lines, essentially what it's doing, it's blocking him and it's letting the pink lines show through. But this is what I mean by the Command T, the entanglement starts to become a bit more interesting. And what happens if we can blend Henry into the yellow of this shirt again? So again, we can use this this selection here, and we can actually, if we, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to use the no, we might make a new mask here. So what I'll do is I'll go Command on the line. So that gives us that line up there, that edge running along the top of the pink. I'm just going to go Channels, New, paste it in as white. I'm going to get the image of Henry, so I can actually click on that mask there, Command click, and it gives the mask. I'm just going to switch the eye on beside the image so I can see what's happening. Yeah, cool. So now I'm going to get white, paint, this area here. So I went over the lines, just wonky drawing with the mouse. Command Shift I means that I can black out this area. Command D gets rid of that selection, and now I can fill this in. Why am I going to all this kind of trouble? It's so that I can get a mask. I can select that mask now, come back into the layers, and it's given me this little area here. So now I can come into to Henry. I can get a really soft brush, the opacity, writing it down. Let's do some edges, and I don't now have to worry about going over the edge, because that mask, that selection that I've just made, is going to hold it. Otherwise, I'd be painting things in over the edge and all sorts of things, going a bit haywire. But that, Command D, gives us a bit more control and just starts to bring those images in together. I can maybe I'll go to colorize. Okay, now I'm going to go hue saturation. Bring this in. See if we can do it this way. So I'm going to click on the hand tool, which gives me the eyedropper. Click on the blue of Henry, and then see if I can change that yellow a wee bit. Although it's not affecting this area through here on the mask, so it's not actually doing a great job actually. So I'll get rid of that. Might just try color balance. I'll option clip it so it's just affecting Henry. Oops. And really it's having more effect on his legs than anything, so I might just leave that at the moment. Doing it in another way, the color balance isn't quite working on that image. Maybe we should bring in one more image. Yeah, let's just bring this one up. Box. Drag it in. You can drag it either from the layer or just from the picture. It's going to come in with the mask. This is a graphic one, so I'm going to kind of link it up with the top of that building and with Henry's collar. And then on this one I'm going to double click and see if we can bring the image underneath through. See the yellow starting to come through a bit. As if we do it another way, to bring the darkest areas through, not much is going to come through there. The top image, fix it. So oh, that's kind of interesting. See what happens when the lighter areas are pulled out first. Yep, I think I'm going to pull the darker areas, and you can see it kind of leaves that square ring. Option, split that, just soften it a bit, go OK. I'll see if I can colorize this one. Color balance. Just make sure it's clipped so it's only affecting the box. Oh, where'd it go? I lost it. Great. Okay, let's go with this one. A bit more yellow. I know that's affecting Henry at the same time, so I'll clip that. Once it's clipped, I can come back in here and play around with it, try and get it a bit closer if I want. There. That's good. So we're slowly building this image up, and starting to get something that's a wee bit more graphical. So I'm going to hold it at this stage, and then we'll do a part 2.